Hey everyone, welcome to your Learn Lab. I'm Seema, and if you're an IGNOU student, you're in the right place. Here we create videos on different IGNOU courses to help you ace your exams. So hit subscribe and join me on this learning journey. Welcome to our MEG 1 IGNOU British Poetry series. Today we are going to explore the intellectual background of Chaucer's world, a world that was both deeply structured and surprisingly imaginative. To understand Chaucer's writing, especially the Canterbury Tales, we need to understand the way people in the Middle Ages made sense of life, knowledge, and the universe. We will begin with religion and learning, where theology was considered the highest form of knowledge, so much so that it shaped not just beliefs, but also science, philosophy, and education. But even in this religiously dominated landscape, there were dissenting voices. Movements like Lollardy and writings from Christian mystics questioned church authority and emphasized personal faith and access to scripture. We'll then shift our focus to medieval cosmos, a beautifully ordered universe with Earth at its center, surrounded by celestial spheres believed to move according to divine will. This vision of cosmic harmony influenced everything from literature to medicine. Speaking of which, medicine and the theory of humours offer another window into medieval thinking. Health and personality were believed to depend on the balance of four bodily fluids, all affected by the stars. So, astrology wasn't just mystical, it was medical. Finally, we'll explore the rich world of dreams and symbolism, where visions were considered not random but meaningful, sometimes even divine. Chaucer's dream poems like The Book of the Duchess draw from this tradition, using dreams as powerful tools for storytelling, reflection, and moral insight. By the end of this session, you'll see how Chaucer didn't just reflect the ideas of his time, he actively engaged with them, questioned them, and used them to shape a new kind of English literature. Let's begin by understanding just how deeply Christianity influenced Chaucer's world. In the 14th century, religion wasn't just about personal belief, it was the lens through which people understood the universe, society, and even themselves. Theology was considered the highest form of knowledge, what they called the queen of the sciences. Now, Chaucer lived and wrote within this worldview, and we can see its impact, especially in his retraction at the end of the Canterbury Tales. Here, he asks forgiveness for the most secular and possibly morally questionable parts of his writing. This tells us that even as a writer as bold as Chaucer felt the weight of religious expectations. Ideas we often think of as romantic or chivalric, like gentleness, which means nobility of spirit, or courtly love, were filtered through the Christian teachings. So being noble wasn't just about social class. It also meant being morally upright in a Christian sense. And remember, the church didn't just shape beliefs, it controlled education. Parish priests were often the most educated people in a community, and they guided people not only spiritually but intellectually. That's the kind of world Chaucer was writing in. But not everyone accepted the church's authority quietly. Two major undercurrents of dissent were emerging: the Lollardy and Christian mysticism. The Lollards were followers of John Wycliffe, a reformer who believed that ordinary people should be able to read the Bible in English, not just Latin. That was a radical idea at the time. They also attacked the church's wealth and corruption, especially practices like selling indulgences. Then we have mystics like Julian of Norwich and Richard Rolle, who emphasized a personal, emotional connection with God. Instead of relying on church rituals, they focused on direct, inner experiences, often through visions or meditations. Chaucer doesn't openly take sides with these groups, but he was clearly aware of them. His vivid portrayals of corrupt clergy like the Pardoner or the Summoner suggest that he sympathized with some of the criticism floating around. These movements didn't topple the church then, but they laid the groundwork for what would later become the Protestant Reformation. Let's switch gears a bit. Let's now turn to how people in Chaucer's time saw the universe. Picture this: the Earth is at the center of the cosmos, perfectly still with the sun, moon, and stars revolving around it, in concentric crystal spheres. This was the Ptolemaic model and everyone believed it. Why? Because this structure wasn't just scientific, it was spiritual. The harmonious movement of the celestial spheres reflected God's perfect design. Everything had a place, and everything moved with purpose. This is where ideas like fortune and providence come in. People believed the stars could influence your fate, your personality, your health, your destiny. But no matter how strong the stars seemed, they were still under God's control. There was also a belief that the big world, the macrocosm, and the little world, the microcosm of the human body, were connected. So, understanding the stars could help explain human nature. Chaucer's characters often refer to fortune or destiny, sometimes seriously, sometimes with irony. He is playing with these ideas, reflecting the medieval mix of faith, science, and storytelling. Now, let's look at the role of astrology in medicine, which might surprise you. In Chaucer's day, astrology wasn't some fringe belief. It was the respected part of medical science. Each zodiac sign was thought to govern a particular part of the body. Aries ruled the head, Taurus the neck, and so on, all the way down to Pisces, which governed the feet. Doctors consulted the stars before performing surgery or giving medicine. In fact, the physician in the Canterbury Tales is praised for knowing the movements of the stars. He is respected not just for his knowledge of the medical text, but for understanding astrology. Today, we see science and astrology as opposites, but in the 14th century, they were intertwined. The cosmos was seen as influencing the body and soul, so a good doctor needed to understand both anatomy and the heavens. This blend of faith, magic, and empirical observation was the scientific worldview of the time. Another essential concept in medieval medicine was the theory of the four humours. This came from ancient Greek thinkers like Hippocrates and Galen and was still dominant in Chaucer's time. According to this theory, our health and personality was shaped by four bodily fluids or humours: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. If these were in balance, you were healthy. If one was dominant, it influenced both your body and your personality. For example, someone with a lot of blood was said to be sanguine, which means cheerful, warm, and sociable. A person with too much yellow bile was choleric, angry, and aggressive. And Chaucer uses these ideas brilliantly to build his characters. The Franklin, for example, is described as sanguine. He is generous, loves good food and wine. The Reeve, by contrast, is choleric, short-tempered, and vindictive. These aren't just literary devices. Chaucer is drawing on real medical beliefs to give depth and realism to his portraits. Let's move to alchemy now, which we can think of as kind of early chemistry, but mixed with magic, philosophy, and spirituality. Alchemists aimed to find the philosopher's stone, a substance that could turn base metals into gold and maybe even grant immortality. But it wasn't just about wealth. Many alchemists believed this transformation mirrored a spiritual one, the purification of the soul. In the canon's Yeoman's Tale, Chaucer tells a funny but pointed story about a servant who becomes disillusioned after watching his master, a fraud, pretending to do alchemy. The tale is full of real technical language showing Chaucer's familiarity with the subject. Metals were linked to planets, gold to the sun, silver to the moon, iron to Mars. So alchemy was also tied to astrology. This mix of sciences and mysticism shows just how imaginative and spiritually charged medieval thought could be. It's important to note that medieval medicine wasn't isolated. It was global and intercultural. Most European medical knowledge came originally from Greek thinkers like Hippocrates and Galen, but much of it reached the West through the work of Islamic scholars. Thinkers like Avicenna, who wrote the Canon of Medicine, and Averroes, who commented on Aristotle, were vital in translating, preserving, and expanding classical knowledge. Their work was studied across Europe, including England. English physicians compiled their own manuals like the Compendium Medicinae or Rosa Anglica, blending classical, Arabic, and practical medical knowledge. Chaucer's physician is a product of this international tradition. He is not only just a local doctor, he represents the kind of educated cosmopolitan figure who had read widely, studied deeply, and understood both body and the cosmos. He is a window into how advanced and interconnected medieval science could be. Finally, let's talk about dreams. Today, we often think of dreams as personal or psychological. But in the Middle Ages, they were believed to carry messages from the divine or the subconscious. Based on the work of Macrobius, dreams were classified into 5 types: some symbolic, somnium, some prophetic, visio, some as divine revelations, oraculum, and others just meaningless, insomnium or phantasma. Chaucer used these ideas in his dream vision poems like The Book of the Duchess and The House of Fame. In these works, the narrator falls asleep and enters a dream world filled with symbolic imagery, strange encounters, and philosophical questions. These weren't just poetic tricks. They reflected a belief that dreams could connect us to truths beyond the physical world. So, when Chaucer's narrators dream, we are being invited into a space where psychology, theology, and art meet. As we wrap up, let's take a step back and reflect on the bigger picture. Chaucer lived in a world that was rich, complex, and intellectually alive. Theology was central, yes, but it coexisted with science, superstition, and imagination. In the Canterbury Tales, we see this very clearly. Characters talk about humours, quote astrological predictions, speak of fortune and providence, and reflect religious and secular views side by side. Chaucer doesn't mock this worldview, but he doesn't blindly accept it either. He holds up a mirror to his society, showing its contradictions, its hopes, and its flaws. And that's what makes his work timeless. By understanding the intellectual world Chaucer inhabited, we understand how he created stories that feel alive, critical, and deeply human, even 600 years later. And that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you so much for joining in. All the best for your MEG 1 exam. Do add your comments to let me know how you found this video. So if you found this video helpful and would like to learn more, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to your Learn Lab. See you in the next one. Until then, happy learning.